I've already suppressed the me down so far that it's like I'm falling into my own stereotype. Like, you know what I mean? Like, as I'm going up the line of cars, I feel that they think that I'm a drug addict. So it makes me more depressed, so I shut it down more. And then just asking for help, you know, but when people don't see me asking for help, they see the repetition in it. Oh, you're here every day, why don't you get a job?
I think everyone has a right to affordable housing and secure housing and to a decent quality of life. And I think that when we look at the issue of homelessness, there are a variety of issues that contribute to people being homeless and being unable to get out of that state. And part of it is poverty. Another part of it is the actual lack of affordable housing. There simply isn't enough to meet the demand.
The commonly accepted figure is around 30,000 Montrealers are without stable residence.
Of course it's a human rights issue, and especially in a country like Canada. I don't think we can survive at 20 below without having a home or a place to rest our heads.
People give us the stereotype that we're basically just drug addicts and that we just like do this because we want to do it or whatever. No, it's like if I had welfare, I wouldn't be here. I would like so be home watching TV. I know I would, but like they give us the stereotype, so like nobody wants to help a drug addict. Like really,
and then you're locked into it. Like me, all the companies, all the businesses along here know my face. I've dropped over 100 resumes on this from Westmount, McDonald's, all the way up to Cavendish, and not one of those places will hire me because they know that I do this. And you would think, oh, he does that, okay, he was looking for work, give him a job. But no, it's like, once you're locked into it, it's hard to get out.
When you talk about homelessness, there's different kinds of homelessness. There's the kind of homelessness amongst people who use shelters. There's the kind of homelessness where people don't have a stable residence and they might couch surf, or they might stay in a rooming house for a short period of time and then maybe access shelters. And so if you combine all of those various categories of homelessness, the commonly accepted figure is around 30,000 Montrealers are without stable residence.
Probably since I was 12, 13 years old, I've been doing this, traveling around since my parents kicked me out.
One of the most significant changes in homelessness in Montreal at any rate is what I regard as a dramatic drop in the average age. About a dozen years ago, the average age of a homeless person was probably 50 to 55 years old, and today it's around 37. That's the average age. That means that's a significant drop. There's a lot more young people who are finding themselves not plugging into society, finding themselves using homeless resources. And that's a significant shift, and it's a significant indicator of something that has happened in society that we've got to figure out.
Like, let's say teenagers, you know, they get kicked out of their houses, right, their homes. It's totally new, right? Where am I going to sleep tonight? Where are you going to sleep tonight? You can get suicidal so fast when you're a teenager because it takes experience to be on the street.
En français, on dit personne n'est à l'abri. Anyone could be in this shelter. I mean, it could turn out I have a burnout at work, and then you get depressed, and everybody. We got a doctor once here, and I mean, for the other resident, that was quite surprising because she was all neat, she had nice clothes. But that's it, she was depressed, and finally she ended up suicide. We
have lots of stories like that here amongst our clients right now. A police officer who, because of gambling addictions, lost everything and lost their job, lost their family, and so on. Homelessness can happen to anyone.
I roofed for 5 years with a roofing company in Nova Scotia. Like I drove a 1984 Mustang 3.1 two-door hatchback. Like I've had apartments. She's owned her own apartment and place, own house. But it's just the same cycle. It never breaks. You get up, you're doing good, and then you'll lose your job, and The average Canadian's 3 paychecks away from being where I'm standing right now. You don't pay your rent for 3 months, where are you gonna be? You lose your job, what happens? They won't give you welfare for at least 6 months after you work, and you have to have proof that they don't need you anymore, that your work said fine, you're laid off and all this stuff, and 6 to 8 months later, you're lucky if you can get 300 bucks out of welfare. Your rent, that's 6 months you didn't pay your rent. You're on the street, you're doing this.
Even some employees are very tight in their budget. So if you imagine the people with welfare, or without a roof, it's quite awful. Yeah.
So you got a choice: you eat or you sleep. You get an apartment or you eat. One of the two. You can't have both. Do you understand?
I would say that the governments aren't living up to 100% of their responsibility.
As soon as it gets cold, like I don't know, she's been fighting since last year for welfare, and I've been fighting since the summertime, and I don't know what to do anymore.
The reality of homelessness is a reality of exclusion. A homeless person is excluded from the kind of treatment we feel that we are entitled to: respect, non-violence, security, and then access to the services that society provides its citizens. That's not the case for homelessness. They can't take that kind of thing for granted. They can't take respect for granted. They can't take security for granted. They can't take access to services for granted.
Cops, they bug us that we're doing this for your safety. There's no our safety about it. They're doing it because people don't want to see us here.
I don't think they're intentful about that. I don't think they are saying, hey, let's discriminate. I think the fact that there is unequal access to services, that there are some citizens that are excluded by virtue of their circumstances and others that are not excluded by virtue of their own circumstances, that there's discrimination based on your life circumstances.
You're allowed 1 ticket a year, and you get 1 warning a year. You get 1 warning and 1 ticket, and then they take you for a drive.
You're homeless, you're not homeless, that you'll be treated differently. I think that's a reality.
Not to the police station. They take you out into the middle of the fucking woods and drop you off and make you walk back into Montreal. They even took my buddy's shoes and made him walk back barefoot.
Clearly, our established services infrastructure is very uncomfortable with the issue of homelessness. In the theoretical, systems not at all. And people who work in the systems, whether it's education, healthcare, or law enforcement, have no problem and would be very sympathetic. But when faced with an actual physical homeless person, that same infrastructure doesn't always respond as best it should.
I just but I'm lucky because I have a good spot like in Westmount where it's very quiet. Surprising for Sherbrooke, but Westmount's like that. So I go there about 7:30 or 8 and I can go right to sleep on the floor. I just put like a clear plastic garbage bag there, I open it so I don't get dirty. I just lie down, totally clothed, and that's it. You don't have a bed, right? You don't have a house. You're in an emergency all the time.
People are desperate. They want to have some money in their pocket so that they can pay for a meal. Maybe the person hasn't eaten for several days, etc. So it becomes a vicious circle. And I think the only way we break out of that vicious circle is to start talking about it. And not just at the shelters or in some boardroom. It's talking about it on the ground.
I think the way to cope with the dilemma of homelessness for many people is to put some distance between themselves and the phenomena by saying they got themselves into it, so it's not my problem.
Some people that choose to do this and say that they're doing it to get out of the system for freedom, whatever, this is worse than being in jail. This is like a life sentence for some people. I know older people that got apartments and got on welfare and disability that still have a bedroom, that still sleep on the floor in the living room in a sleeping bag, that still have a knife and a fork that they wash continuously every time they use them, even though they could fill their whole kitchen full of dishes. They have one plate, one spoon, one fork, one knife, one dish, and they're just caught in a cycle. They have everything now like a place to live, but they're still homeless.